I'm untrusted. Don't trust it. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hey.
Hey,
Hey, how are you?
first, I'm not shy. I'll carry it.
Hey,
Hey.
this is Ruth. She's
Oh, you familiar with these?
The day you went Sunday morning, on Sunday, up on Sunday night, I lost my arm, and everything came back.
Oh, we got another key.
hey.
Let me go find the kids.
One of those moving picture machines. Two of them. She won't leave.
Hey, Ruth.
Hi, Dawn.
Well, you put that sorry cheap camera up, man. You got the pro out here on the job now.
Everything seems to have worked out well. Yeah, we're gonna have to change the seats here.
Rangers are doing and just making sure. And he wears it every day, y'all. It's got holes like this.
Jackie's still wearing it.
You have to wash it. I have to wash it.
She's still wearing it.
He has to wear it. Every day. It has to, it goes in the washing machine at night and it comes out. Well, I know, you know that. I know that. You're sure. And he's got locks on at the shoulder. He does not dress up.
You sure know how to clear a room.
Oh, here come the cameras.
This is Fox Channel News. This is Fox Channel News here, Mark. It's ABC over here. Don't pay any attention to them. They're a bunch of liberals.
How y'all doing? I never met Caitlin.
Leave your
You,
grandmother in the
wait till you see David, little David.
You think she wants to sit up here?
Mama, let's see.
I like the shirt now.
This is the newest one. This is Walker.
Mama's
gonna come sit up here.
Oh, he does.
3 weeks
and
and
1 day old.
Got two down. Do you remember Ashley and Greg and Dean?
Ranger, what do you think about your little brother?
I like him a thing.
Does he cry a lot?
Every cries.
Mom, have holes in it.
That shirt does have holes in it.
It's been around a while.
Granger,
Every day.
Granger, who's taking your picture right here?
Who's that guy?
Who is this?
Hey, Mama, let's go.
Who's taking your picture back there?
Hey, put your pumpkin in some dogs.
Wait a minute.
We have clothes for you right now.
It's your present. You gonna get your present? We got a present for you right now.
Hey, he painted it. He's painted it himself.
Oh, really? He's excited about this.
Here it is.
Oh,
Oh, wait,
You did it? You painted it?
That is good.
Good, you did a good job.
Ranger, did you pick out a pumpkin for your house?
Yeah. So I've got, how many at your house? How many did you paint?
About 6 or 7.
You painted them.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
We didn't want anything, but we thought you could use a painted pumpkin.
Yeah, that's exactly what I need. I say, this is a truck-loving family, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Granger, is that your favorite shirt you got on there, buddy?
Yes, sir, it
Did you
is.
give Mama a hug for her birthday?
You did.
What do you say about that?
Don't be talking to him. I won't see if he'll catch on. Say, you did you want
You already did?
I love to kiss all.
Look at that.
David, how you doing? No, give me a hug. Give me a hug. How are you?
Over here munching
He keeps trying to wake up, but he's on his eyelids.
Are we ready?
What'd you say, Ruth?
Let's get me in and we'll get him to do the blessing.
Preacher.
Man, did you come in the blessing for us? I'm okay.
And all that up to the corner. The Branion, Dr. Branion lived on the corner. So we would get out here in this field and play baseball. And that was, that house there, the little blue house, that was the Gilberts lived there. That was the only house down in this area, there wasn't any Pascal or any of these houses this area. And that was a dirt road where Dr. Ramsey, he was president of GWC, the Women's College of Women. He rode his horse down here. I can see him now. He was held himself so straight on his horse right here where we can see him on a dirt road where way down to the boulevard is now. But it was back when I was just wondering, I don't know how it looks back then now. It wasn't all those woods because we used to have something back there. We used to have a yard out there.
What did the house used to look like? You said there was a doorway there where that tall window is.
Yeah. That was, you see, the last door, the last window's on the left. At the back, that was Mama and Papa's room. And then we had that room upstairs. That's where Sister Larry. After they married, Mama, Sister had to have a lot of help. And so I did go at the time, but I found out later that was the reason Mama sold that house, bought this house, to have room for Sister Larry lived.
So which house, Mama?
At least that was my granddad's house. Where I was born.
You were born there.
I was born, but that was we call it Grandpa's house. He lived there, and I just barely remember him, seeing him one time. And we lived there until I was 10.
And that's over there
Well, the detention center is, the jail is there.
next to the Coliseum and all that.
Yeah, next to, just downtown almost now.
And you lived there.
Till I was 10. And very happy childhood. Very bad, and over here too. And then Sister Larry had that, it was a nice room, had a fireplace, and then the back, James's brother had the back room on the left. And all the girls, Francis, Judy, and Nellie and I, We had 2 double beds in the other room on the right side there.
So there are how many of you in that room?
There were four of the girls.
In that one?
No, there were 3. Let's see. Sister was not. It was Francis. Yeah, 4. Francis and Julie and Nellie. We had 2 double beds. We shared that room. And then, of course, Francis married right after that. Very soon. So there was just the 3 of us. And then when it ended up, I think Nellie and I were probably done. But we had the living room, and we had back then I thought it was large, but I found out it's small. But that's where, at night, Mom and Papa, until he got sick. And the sister and Larry and Larry and I, we used to play rook down there. That was the only game old maids and rook was the only game we learned to play. And we spent many an hour there.
Yeah. So, now, you say none of these houses were here when
No.
when you lived here?
And that's until on the corner, Dr. Brandon Powell, he lived on the corner there. And and then on the corner, left other side, Dr. Pat's lived there. I don't believe any of these houses, I remember, it might have been one.
So none of these houses that are in view here
In view
now.
was here.
Okay, say that again.
When we lived on East Avenue, we brought Grandpa's old, Grandpa Kearns' old furniture from the porch, and I've never seen another set like it. It was made with the tree limbs like, with the knots all in them, and it was odd looking, and I don't know whatever happened to those things. We had them over here because I'll never forget an incident we had. The Gilberts lived right there in that little blue house there. It is there. And that's the only house I remember being down in this area at all. They had a young baby, and Daddy went over there and got it one day, brought it over there, and I was sitting there rocking that baby in one of those old chairs, and hit my elbow on one of those knots, and fainted. And Nellie didn't know it. I fainted. She thought I was kidding her. She said, "Chick, you gonna drop that baby?" I can hear her now. I mean, after she told me what she said. And she realized I was unconscious. Well, I was so faint that I nearly dropped. That
Man.
hit my one moment. That child. That's the last thing I remember about those chairs. I don't know whatever happened to them. They were funny looking though.
When you left, you say you used to milk the cow?
Yeah, we had a cow here. And Julie used to milk it.
So how did you get around when you lived here? Did you have a...
I walked quite everywhere I went. From the time I was started first grade, I just walked. And when I was on East Avenue, I walked to the dentist by myself. I could go to Dr. Allen, get Mama sitting up there without anybody. And she didn't mind us going anywhere we wanted to in Greenville. And we moved over here. They transferred me to, I had to go into Park School when I started in the first grade up on North Main. When I moved over here, they transferred me to a new school, Payne School, over down the north, well, close to where we lived on East Avenue. And I was so unhappy. I was in the fourth grade. So Mama went to Dr. Brand, the superintendent of the school, and asked him to transfer me back. So he did. I went on back to my school.
You did what?
Park School.
She did ask you to what?
I asked him to transfer me back to my old school on Main Street.
Yeah.
So I walked to school. We were 2 or 3 people lived over here and we'd walk together. All the way, but see, I was used to walking from the first grade. I walked from East Avenue over to North Main to go to school. And we got to high school, I walked from Tundra Street, way over there, on Westville. So I grew up walking and sat riding in the horse and buggy occasionally with Papa. Very few people, our uncle finally got a call when we lived on East Avenue. We just used a streetcar when it had to, but that wasn't awful.
So you had a place here to keep a horse and buggy?
I don't think we had that after. I can't remember what we had to do. Papa had a stroke. It must have been right after he moved.
After you moved to here?
I think it was. He had over a period of 3 years. He had 3 strokes, and I think it could have been, but I think it was healed. He had, because I heard later on that they thought losing their home had something to do with it.
They thought what?
Losing our home on East Avenue. See, Mama traded the mortgage out on East Avenue. See, it had been Grandpa had died. I guess it had always, he probably had always given it to my Papa. I didn't think I was named. But Mama lost that guy from this one. She mortgaged another one. So it made a great big difference.
Well, so you say you lived here about 2 years?
I think it was about 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I believe that's about right. Because when I finished high school, when I finished grammar school, we were living on Washington Street, and we had already moved from here to Stone Avenue. And then we moved to Stone Avenue, and then we moved to not sure when Washington Street after that. So I'm pretty sure that your granddad.
Do what, Mom?
Pardon me.
What'd you say?
I said, Mom and I rented a small house. It's the only time we ever rented just a small place. Because everywhere she moved, she tried to get a place where we could rent rooms or rent apartments or something else. But Mom and I finally moved, after I went to work, we rented a little 5-room house down there on Park Avenue. But we didn't stay long because it wasn't so long. Sister had to come back. We had to get a larger place because she would try to live with Larry and they would go someplace and live for a while, but it didn't usually last too long. So we moved there, and that's, I think, when we moved to Westfield Street. Child.
Okay, say that again, Mother. I didn't get it.
We went to Bunkle Street Church. I was christened there when I was a baby. I believe that's where I was christened. Otherwise, it looks very much like it did, just the front part of it, when I was a child. I'd be at a Sunday school, and she'd give us a nickel to put in Sunday school. And one day, we stopped at Armstrong Pharmacy right there on the corner of Main and North and got an ice cream cone. They were 5 cents for a cone. And we bought us a cone in place of putting our money in Sunday school. And I've always thought about that. I don't know whether Mama ever knew about that or whether we just did that, didn't tell her. But I know it was a dishonest thing that we did because we were supposed to put that in the Sunday school. But we had, I remember now, I think it was Nellie and I don't think Judy was with us, but one of the neighborhood children, we went in, and I guess we stole the Lord's money in a way. We met at St. Paul Methodist Church, where I was a member. The young folks in our church we were having a Halloween party and invited the Furman students to come. At that time, Furman was downtown Greenville, almost up down Augusta Street on University Ridge. So they asked me to meet them at the front door, main door of the entrance of the church, and to meet them and to introduce them. Back then, you see, we didn't do like we do now. It wasn't just a wild booze party. It was just it was a more, not formal, but we just didn't do things then like we do now. So they had me to introduce them in that kind of way. So he told me later, there was about 6 of them. I remember 3 of them was, besides my husband, to be, it was C.J. Blackman, his roommate, and Lanning, another friend of theirs. I remember those 3 because I dated all 3 of those at one time or another. And we went back to the social hall and I introduced him. At a later date, he said, you didn't get any of our names straight, Harley. I said, I don't remember what I said, but I think now, well, I haven't changed in a bit. I still can't introduce a whole bunch of people without. But we met there, and that was I think the next Sunday, my house, Mama and I lived on Anderson Street then, right back of St. Paul Church. You just walk right across the street to our house. And I was sitting out on the porch drying my hair one Sunday afternoon. C.J. Blackman, the granddad's roommate, came by and came up and sat on the porch. We got to talking, and he soon asked me for a date. And we started dating a little bit. And later on, I found out that my husband was a timid-like person. He was bashful in a way. And he asked his roommate to come over there and get a date with him for me. And in the place of getting a date for me, he got him a date. CJ got him a date for himself. And we started dating, and my husband started dating my friend, Marion. So we double dated like that for a long time. And so then we finally, I don't know how it all happened, but we finally got to dating. And I guess we were dated for 2 years. Then he finished Furman. He finished Furman in June, and we were married, I guess, back in November. And of course, that was in the Depression. And as he said, told somebody, we married during the Depression and we never got out of it. And that's about the way it was, too. But we married, and I was working at the library. Then I had finished high school, and I had been working in the library, shelving books and mending books during my high school years.
What year was this that you got married?
I married in 31, November 31. So we had, I had been at the library, and while he was in Furman, he worked from Mr. Cunningham's Cafe, serving meals, and got his meals free. And after we married, we got our dinner free. And that helped us a lot. And then he was called later on to a small church in Pickens County, over at George's Creek near Easley. But at that time, we were really scraping the bottom. We didn't have anything. And by that time, the Depression, taxes, we didn't have Greenville County and state of South Carolina didn't even have taxes to pay our salaries. And so we had a rough time. But we, along with everybody else, But both of us were used to it, so we didn't bother us that much. So that's the way we met. All of my social life practical back then was with the church, through St. Paul Methodist Church. We had a real, and he pastored. He was assistant pastor to my pastor there. He preached the first time he preached was at St. Paul Methodist Church.
Was he a good preacher? Was he a good preacher?
Yes, I never did get bored with his preaching. All the years I heard he was a good preacher. And my mother did like I did. My mother was a wonderful woman, and I wanted to be like her in every respect except two ways. And she thought when I married a Baptist, I had almost fallen from grace. She was a strong Methodist and a strong Democrat. When I voted for Dwight Eisenhower, she just could not believe I would vote Republican. For those two things, I would want to be like my mother, but other ways, I wish I could be more like her. So that was kind of the way we started our married life. And we struggled on until he became pastor at part-time at George's Creek and part-time at Renfrew. I met someone the other day when I called Senior Action to make an appointment for my appointments, medical appointments in July. She said, "Oh, are you Miss B.F. Rogers?" I said, "Yes." She says, "Your husband baptized me when he was at Renfrew many years ago." So I don't.
So when Ben came along, he was born there in the hospital at Travelers Rest.
Yeah, he was born. We were living up there at that little house in Travelers Rest.
Yeah.
We had just moved there after I stopped working at the library. We moved there. We were living on North Main Street in that old apartment house when we left. We moved down to Travelers Rest, and we rented that little place. I think it was $10 a month that we paid for it, and had a well. No, it was a brand new, it wasn't an old house, but it wasn't a very good house. And Ben was born there at the Gaston Hospital. I was the only patient in the little hospital. And he was born there, and Dr. Gaston was the one that started spoiling him. We had a rocking chair, he'd get that baby and rock. His nurse would come in and do the same thing. So he started off being spoiled, and I always blamed him for it.
I don't know if he had enough time to do all the spoiling that was done there then. How long did you stay in the hospital before you get
10 days.
10? Oh,
And Daddy had to borrow the money. And by that time, we were not at Easley. He was pastoring at Marietta Baptist Church in Renfrew together. And so this man, Mr. Batson, who had looked like then a big grocery store at Marietta, Daddy borrowed the money from him to pay the doctor and hospital bill. And it was supposed to be $50. That was for all 9 months before and 10 days in the hospital, and the doctor and the hospital. It was $50, and he gave him a 10% discount being a minister, so it cost $45.
that's good.
By that time, we were living up in Marietta, and we had gone from bad to worse. Mama came down from Asheville to help me out. And we left the hospital, and a nice lady, a member of the Methodist Church there at Renfrew, had a heated car, which was very unusual. And she brought us home, brought the baby and me home with Mama in that car, warm heated, that warm car. We got in, and it was right after Thanksgiving, the coldest weather. And our house was not heated. My husband was he believed in hunting. Nothing much kept him from his way of hunting. And he had gone hunting, and we walked in a cold house, and there was the cracks in it. My mother went in and started gathering newspapers, sticking the cracks under the windows, the doors. It was so cold. So we didn't have a very nice homecoming. But we didn't stay there long till we went to Slayton.
Well, how many quail did he get that day?
Pardon?
How many quail did Daddy get?
I don't
kill that
remember
day?
anything about the quails. I wasn't the least bit interested in that quail.
Well, when did he have that run-in with the bootleggers?
That was when we were at Marietta.
Was it?
Uh-huh.
What
You
happened then?
see, it was surrounded with bootleggers up in that country. And he had a funeral at the church. Why they had it at the church, I never did know, but the church was packed to the chain. And I was there at the service. And I wish I could remember what he said.
This
I
was
wish
a
I-
funeral of a bootlegger?
Mm-hmm. Rough. And he just preached exactly how he felt, and it made those people mad, some of those bootleggers. And after that service, they threatened to, they're going to shoot him up, they're going to kill him. They threatened. And they threatened they're going to come around the house, so we had to be careful. He had the guard kind of see, but we never did hear any more from him, but it kept us on edge, for a while. Because it was a bad situation. We moved on. Let's see. There was one thing Craig had asked me to tell you, and I forgot. I'm reminiscing a little bit for Craig's sake. He had asked me to remember some of these things. What was it? Something you told me to, but I can't remember now what it was.
Just maybe describe a little bit more about Granddaddy and what he was like.
Yeah. As I told you, he was a very timid in some ways, and I called him bashful. But then when he opened up, he wasn't. He was everything else. But he would not push himself at all. And he reminds, I think in a lot of ways of my 4 children, Ruth has more of his ways than his others, I believe. And this gives you an example. When you children were in Parish School, they asked us to come to be in the receiving line. I think it was when Ben graduated from that school. Asked us to come be in the receiving line. Well, when we got there, the people, they had the door locked. We couldn't get into the reception place. And we had got in line. And I said, I tried to get your daddy and your granddaddy. I said, we should go on in. We're supposed to be in the receiving line. He would not budge. He waited in that receiving line until we got to the door. We got in, they'd been waiting for us. That's why, you see, we should have gone in, but he wasn't going to push ahead for anything in the world, because even if we were supposed to be in the receiving line. And I called him my walking encyclopedia, because he seldom sat down without to read anything without the dictionary. And I could ask him most anything. Political, I didn't ask much political because I didn't keep up with things then like I do now, but anything about the Bible, whatever, wanted how to pronounce something, he always could tell me. And we didn't have money to spend for anything, hardly at all. But the church was always doing something, so we had a lot of social life with the churches that we were in. And of course, he came from a background. His daddy, didn't understand why he needed to go to Furman. And when he finished high school, he was a good athlete, real good football player, very strong man physically. Growing out there on the farm, he was very strong, as you know, Don. You know a little bit about how he did the things that he did, and you might like to tell that about the horse, how he stopped that horse one time on the farm. I lost my train of thought then when I was talking about. Oh yeah, you see, and he had no way of going to Furman. His mother had been sick for many years. And when he was 15, I believe when she died, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was 15. But he had stayed out of school. He had to stay out of school, and during the time they were working in the fields, he would have to miss school. So it took him a long time to get through. And I think he lost about 2 years in high school, working on the farm. He couldn't just go straight through. But by the time he got in senior, he was the best athlete in Liberty High School and received a gold medal for being the best athlete his senior year. He wanted to go to Furman, but he had no idea. No idea how he'd get there. And he had finished working in the farm one day, and he'd come in back then, one of those little hot bedrooms, like a little tiny room, and stretched out on the bed, he said, after supper. And they lived at a little crossroads. And he saw a big car drive up out there at the crossroads. I looked out his window, a big black car. And it was Dr. McLaughlin, the president of Furman University. And he said, I've come to take you to Furman. He had a little old-timey trunk, dinky little thing. And he packed what clothes he had and went to Furman that night. Doctor said, we're going to give you a football scholarship. And he started to Furman on a football scholarship, but the coach cussed him out one time, and he threw off his uniform and told him he could have it. And he got out and got him a job carrying Greenville newspaper. Yes. And then working in the Bloom's department store downtown. He finally got through.
Did he play baseball too, or?
I think he did.
Yeah, he did.
I think he did. You remember that? I thought he did.
The store up there where we went to, Ivy's store.
Yeah.
Ivy told us that BF had the arm on him like nobody had ever seen. Said he could have played professional as a pitcher. Said there wasn't anybody around there that could hit the ball when he pitched.
He was strong, because that's why when he went down physically, it made it was such a different man.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything like the man he was after his heart attack. And after he got the last 5 years of his life, he went down physically. But he was he was well known for his preaching. And today, people will still tell you he's the best preacher they ever heard. Carl Summit told Ben that just a few months ago. And he certainly knew how to speak. And you wouldn't think anybody growing up out there, with disadvantaged as he was in so many ways, could come out and do what he did. And then he finished Furman, and then after I guess it was after, I don't know whether it was after, no, it was while we were in Macon, he was working on his master's degree. He was doing a lot of it by correspondence, and he was having to study an awful lot. But, no, that was at Furman. He got his master's degree at Furman. But that's when David was born while he was doing that. And he couldn't even get excused from class to come to see when David was born, to see him. Oh, wow, that was the way it was. But he finally got his doctor's degree, and when he got it, I finally said, I think I should get a degree too, because I hardly saw him for a while. He was either studying and working for the church or either working on his degree. But he was a good preacher. I heard him for all those years. I never did get tired of it. I don't mean we agreed on everything. There's a lot of things we didn't agree on. I don't think you're supposed to agree with everything, even if it's your husband or your wife. If you disagree, you disagree. But he told me a long time afterwards, he said, well, I met you at that Halloween party. And I said that night, he said, I told myself that night I'd marry you one of these days. And that's what happened. It was kind of a rough going sometimes. But then we moved to Newberry, and things straightened out when they was called to a full-time church in Newberry. I guess in some ways, financially, we were better off then than any other time in America. He went down there with on a salary of $35 a week, and that was more than we were getting. And a house furnished, and electricity furnished, and all that, so we fared much better.
So that was before Daddy was born?
Oh,
Or after?
that was before. Your daddy was born in Newberry. He was born in Newberry, and Ruth was born in Newberry.
How long were you there?
6 years. Loved it down there. Loved everything about it except the heat. It was terrible. So he was called from there to
Morgan Memorial.
Morgan Memorial. Yeah. I guess when we moved to Morgan Memorial, Ben was in the first grade, and so you must have been about
3.
Yeah, you were 3 because Ruth was 3 months. And we got along good there financially, as far as that goes.
Is that where Daddy used to raise chickens out in the backyard?
That was at Morgan Memorial. And I thought it was the biggest mess. I told him, I said, I believe that's what kept that church from calling you up, the Calvary Baptist Church in Asheville, West Asheville. I would not be a bit surprised. I remember the reason I said it, I walked in up there, and they were back in the Sunday school room, and they were looking out over our backyard back there. And I said, uh-oh. That was the biggest, oh, me, my.
Yeah, that probably was it.
I always felt like that had something to do with it. Because that was a big church. It was, and they were really interested in it. But you know, things like that.
Yeah.
That was bad.
Yeah. So then he left Morgan Memorial, or you did, and went to Macon, right?
Yeah. Stayed in Macon 2 years. That's you all. Let's see, we went to Macon. Yeah. Then we stayed in Macon 2 years, and then we came to Leawood. It was a brand new church, just 80 members when we came here. church in Macon, he left out 1,000 members. And his daddy was a little bit ashamed to tell people where he come. You know, he was proud of that 1,000 members, but when he said 80 members, but we came to Leewood, and it outgrew everything in a little while. Had the new church. We went there, it was a sawdust floor. They had replaced the tent had blown away, they had to replace it with just an old tabernacle like with a sawdust floor. That's where it was when we went there. But stayed there the rest of his ministry. Dad, now, you was talking about your dad, Craig. Don was born, he and Ben being about 3 years older, you see, than he was. And I have, when we were in Newberry, they played together some. And, but Don and Ben, all of my children are different. There's not much the same about either one of them. Have you ever thought about that, Don?
That's right.
I can't hardly think of anything in you 4 children that you're like in some ways.
Hmm.
And Don was always a little different. He did his own thing, you know. Because I know when we moved to, it was when we were moved to Leewood, where you had your first college, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
State Park, Park Avenue.
Yeah. How did you get that first collie? I don't
Y'all
know.
bought it for me.
Is that the one he went out on Spartanburg Road out there and bought that one? Or was that the second one?
I don't know where the first one came from because you brought that puppy out to me at Stone School when I got out of school one day.
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't know where that one came
I
from.
was thinking that was after that one got killed out there.
I believe that was the first one I ever got.
It
She
was.
brought out to school.
I was thinking the one that got killed right out there in front of Park Avenue. It was just like a funeral around there, you know. And because he loved it, and he would do. And you remember how you'd go down there, was it you and who helped you build that tree house?
Curtis.
Curtis
Walker.
They built a tree
Well,
house down there.
I built it. Curtis was there around
Curtis.
in the way.
And they fixed it so Ruth couldn't get up there. And that was the only time I remember Don was always when his little one looked after Ruth. He was always particularly careful about it, and has always been. He was a family oriented. He was always interested in family, and still is. You know how that is, more so than a lot of people are today. And he was many times when I'd be in Newberry, carrying downtown. We didn't live far. We were on Main Street. We could just walk downtown. And I'd carry him downtown, and he might be in the stroller, the carriage, whatever it was we used. And I've had many persons who won't know if it was a boy or a girl, because he had long curly hair, you know, real pretty hair. And I hated to get it cut. That's the reason. You remember that picture you have? That's the reason I got that picture. It was before we had your hair cut, and I wanted that. And they had a special on, got that picture for $1.
Yeah.
And it's still a good photograph.
Mm-hmm.
Before he got his hair cut.
Hmm.
But Ben, when we was down there, Ben was always interested in cars and trucks, and still is. I'll never forget an instance there. His daddy came in that little old car, Henry J. or something, I forgot now what it was. Funny looking old car. He never did park that thing in front of the house. He usually went to the top. That day he was just gonna run in for a minute. He parked that thing right out in front of the house. And we lived on a hill. And we looked out, and Ben was in that thing going across the street. He was a tiny little thing. And my husband had to run out there and get a hold of him. I never thought how in the world he's gonna do it. But Ben always would fool with cars, trucks, still was. And then Ruth was born after Don was born there. Then Ruth came along there, and she was. I had to go to. They wanted to take Ruth. I was so sick I couldn't. I was awfully sick for some weeks and weeks. the doctor didn't think I'd be able to carry Ruth, and he wanted to go ahead and take her. And just a few weeks ago. My mother came down from Asheville and took us back, took me back. Got up there in the cool with the mountain air, and she would cook and fix things for me. So my husband made a kind of a bed back in the back seat, and Mama got in the front. And I guess we had been on where we left at home with Miss Baker White. Can't remember. And I went to Asheville and stayed a month. And Mama did everything for me. If I hadn't been for her, I would never have had Ruth. And one day, didn't do much telephone then. You wrote letters. And got a letter from my husband, and he was telling me about Don. He said, he came to me one day and said, Daddy, where's your wife? Her in Asheville. I never will forget that. Where's your wife? Her in Asheville. He had heard him telling people that down there at the church, you know. And I thought that made me think when I was up there, you know, couldn't do anything for him, and it was a kind of a bad time. But we survived it, managed, thankful to Mom. She would fix me the nicest things, trying to get me to eat something. Then I went back to Newberry, now so thin I didn't even look like myself. I lost so much weight. But I can't think of anything special. That's just something you won't know. Ruth, I never will forget a lady down in Newberry, an old lady. She was on that corner going out down to the grocery store. I'll think of her name in a minute. When Ruth was born, she made her the most beautiful garment I've ever seen in my life. The most beautiful handwork, every stitch, most beautiful little muslin blue gown. And I have wondered why in the world I didn't keep that. Because after we moved to Greenville, I'd bathe her at night, put that little gown on her practically every night. I'd put that same little thing and roll her around up where Miss Boggs and those lived, you know. And every time I think about that little thing, I said I didn't know anybody could make such a beautiful thing as that old lady did, real old lady. And where she got such beautiful material and all. But it's those little things you think about. Of course, when we think about Newberry, we think about Bacon Smith, the old ladies that lived across the street from us. And I had told her about how we had to move in when he was born. He was so spoiled. Well, it wasn't altogether that. I think it was some problems he had with his stomach. We didn't know about it at that time. We finally took him to a specialist. And they had to open up something here. I forgot what you call it. We moved up there, and we moved to Newberry, and I told Bacon Smith, when Don was born, I had told him how we had to break Ben from being so spoiled, how we let him cry one night for an hour. And old Baker thought that was terrible, because Baker did. So when Don was born, he was pretty bad about sleeping. He'd want attention at night. So we decided we'd let him cry too, just like Ben. And we let him cry, and I went in the front bedroom, and Baker heard him. She said, I almost came over there and got that baby when I heard him crying like that. She was just like a second mother to me. Perfectly lovely old lady. Worked in the mill there, she and her sister. Perfectly. She was a precious person. Don, of course, doesn't remember a lot.
Oh, I remember.
You remember?
Yeah, she'd take me up in the choir, hold me in the choir.
Yeah. She sang in the choir.
Mm-hmm.
They had a community telephone. You paid them, I think people paid them 25 cents a month or something. And they'd use her telephone. They'd call her, somebody, sometimes she'd be trotting all over that community, that neighborhood, get people to the telephone.
So did you have a telephone in your house back then?
Yeah, we had telephone.
Yeah.
How long was it before you had a TV?
We were at, we had our first TV when we were at Leewood. It was a gift to us from Mr. Palmer. It was back when we couldn't see much on TV, you know, just a lot of snow. We couldn't hear it too well, but that was after we kept it for many years. Well, we had bought a new one. I don't remember we ever bought a new one, you know, Dad's lifetime.
Don't know.
I remember how he bought that new stereo. He was proud of that. He loved that stereo. It was pretty.
You listen to the news a lot?
Oh, yeah. We kept up. What do you call them at 6 o'clock news, shutting it.
Hartley and Brinkley. Hartley.
Yeah, Miranda Brinkley.
Yeah.
Yeah, we listened to that. Things, that's hard for me. That's the reason I guess it's so hard for people of my generation to understand this generation. If you read that book by Tom Brokaw, The Greatest Generation, that explains how we lived back then. And I'll tell you, it's just unbelievable the changes it's been. Advanced in some way, and in other ways not advanced as far as I'm concerned. I really-
What ways was it better?
What ways back then was
Yeah.
better? Well, it might be because I just didn't understand some of the hardships that maybe my parents were going through. But life was simple, you know. You didn't have to worry about getting out at night. You could walk, you could play. We could get out there in the streets on East Avenue and play, and to our heart's content. We could walk out any way we wanted to. We'd walk way up North Street, out Lawrence Road to see the gypsies. The gypsies used to come and camp out there. And we'd seem like they're a mile from home. We just thinking about walking out there and to see the gypsies. Well, what would people do today if your children did that? Could walk downtown and play. I played hours and hours at the park down there when I lived on East Avenue. If Mama ever worried one thing about me, I don't guess she did. It was safe, and people had. We just didn't have so much. We weren't as materialistic as we are now. If you had, we all had food and decent clothes, and no, it was not always a warm house because sometimes it was cold. Because I helped Frances, I was 10 years younger when I started school. I would go in and help her make the beds. And Bud wasn't cold in the bedrooms. He had so much coat all over us, you know. Didn't have anything heated, but we were sat in the dining room, in the fireplace sometimes in the living room. Anything else you all wanted to ask about?
Don't know. Really?
What was the first president you remember? Who
I
was-
guess it was, I remember hearing about Wilson, but I know I couldn't have done it. But I remember it was back, I guess, right after Wilson days. But I remember well President Harding, because that's when Mama and I were living on Washington Street, West Washington Street, and that was before the radio days, before we had radios. If there's anything special news, Greenwood News would put out an extra. They call it an extra. And we waked up, it was during the night, they were calling extra, extra, right out in our house. And it said, extra, extra, President Harding is dead. So that's the first one I remember, that definitely. But I remember the time he died. And, I don't know, that I must have been, I wasn't all that young. I guess if I could think a little bit, if somebody could think of somebody, it could be that I remember back during the First World War a little bit, you know. And that would be, was it Wilson? That would have been president.
Yeah.
I guess I knew just a little bit about him, but I didn't really. The first thing I remember definitely was that news about that because I was up. I guess I was on up. It's been years, I was, when I heard Professor Carter. I must have been 12, 13 years old.
How old were you when you got your first job? Was it at the library? Or-
No, my first job was on Saturday at Velt's department store downtown in Greenville. And we'd go to work at 9 and work till 9 at night and have a lunch hour and a supper hour. And I would make $2 a day. And if I bought a pair of hose, it took $2 to pay for the hose. That was when you, but Nellie and I both worked in the basement. Back then it was a concrete floor, dark, dreary looking old place. And, is that somebody? And, the first time I remember just being so tired I couldn't was when I finished working there.
How old were you?
Let's see, I think I was 13. Maybe I was 14.
So your daddy had already had a stroke
You
by
know,
then?
he had died when I was 13, and then we moved out to Pilgrim Street, and that's when I figured it out, because we were living out on Pilgrim Street when I started working. And that's when I met one of the boys, the Freeman boys that I had met, you know, the first night when I met your granddad's Halloween party, Lanning, Lawrence Lanning. He was working up there at Bell. And so I dated him, and
How old were you when you started dating?
about 14.
Really?
I think so. He was about that age when I dated him. And when I was in the 7th grade, C.J. Brown took me to the movies. We went to see The Birth of the Nations when I was just in the 7th grade. But Lanny, and back then, you know, he came to my door and to tell me good night, and he kissed me good night, and I never would date him anymore. I was afraid he was too fast. That's, you just can do those kind of things that day. I thought he was really fast. Times have changed, haven't they?
Yeah.
So I know you're interested in politics now. How old were you when you started following politics? Was that?
Oh, that's been just actually, really, to back a little bit when I was working at the library. But after my retirement, when I got more interest, when I could listen to on TV and the news. But when I was working at the library, I was the only one down there in the children's room. We brought a little radio up there, a little TV. Somebody brought a little tiny TV, and we could watch it during the Nixon hearing. And I was the only one that was holding up for Nixon. And I was the one most disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
I sure was disappointed. And then after my retirement, I got really interested. And I said one time, I believe if I had Joe and I could do it, I'd get into politics. But of course, I wasn't equipped to do that. But since that time, I have been really interested in trying to keep up with that.
What do you think about the current president?
That what?
The current president.
I don't believe I better put that on recording. I'm ashamed to say I don't like to feel the way I told him the way I do. It's just such a big disappointment. I think it's a disgrace to us. I really do. It's a strange thing how I saw in the paper this morning he's going to go to a graduation. Why would a college call him for a graduation speech? Doesn't make sense, does it?
I heard the other day on Rush Limbaugh, I think that, did you hear this day that they were going to call Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, to deliver the commencement address at some university up north. I can't remember which one it was. And the students had a kind of an uprising about it and voted him out and voted in some murderer off of death row to come in and give the commencement address. Went from Mr. Rogers to a murderer.
Couldn't have that clean cut young man, that clean cut man. hard to understand, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the reason, there's so many things that's hard for me to take in living through the years that I have. I never was able to describe to you the difference in back then and now. Children back then, children don't hardly know what it is to get out and play now, you know. And we used to go out on East Avenue even before we got a street light out there in the dark. And we'd gather in the neighborhood and play hide and seek most every night. Mom and some of us would be sitting on the porch right there and playing hide and seek and just had the best time. And then when they put a light right down the street light in front of our house, we had it made. And they had a
Was it an electric light or?
big street light. I guess it was electric. I don't know what it was.
I guess so.
It was hung up down way up on the post.
Huh. Can you describe your parents for us a little bit? Your mom and dad,
Oh,
kind of what they were like?
my mother, as I said, was a wonderful woman. She married my dad. She was 18 and he was 36 years old when they married. And he was from North Carolina, from Davidson. He was, his dad was in the Civil War. His father was in the Civil War. My dad was born during the Civil War, 1961, I think. And he was, I call him a good-looking man. I have that one picture of him, and I wish I had it taken down somewhere. I don't know where it is now. I would like to see it. He was a good-looking man, and Mama, never did get a picture of her. I lost mine. I don't know what happened to my little picture of Mama when she was young, 18 or 19. Pretty lady. And Mama could take the least and make something out of it I've ever seen, whether it was food, clothing. I guess she never made me anything to wear that she didn't get from a remnant counter. She would get something, find a remnant of good quality. She wouldn't buy it. She'd feel it to see what kind of quality it was. She wouldn't waste her time on something that wasn't. And there was always somebody at our house to eat and to sleep. And how she managed, I don't know. She had her younger sister there that lived with us for years. And she slept in the room with all my older sisters, that's my older sister. And Uncle Van was her youngest brother. When the mother died, they came there and stayed a lot. And many a time, there'd be so many young people coming to eat supper. Elizabeth and Aunt Belle and Uncle Vernon and Deb Paul and Jack, they were forever coming. And I don't remember Mama ever going over there and eating with me. And, but she would cook. But the children, they didn't get the first choice like they do now. We waited. And sometimes it wasn't much. It seemed like we got cheated on our food sometimes when all those folks were eating. We'd have to take the leftovers. But she could make the best things and just make up things that, and I never knew she must be struggling financially because my daddy gambled. Back in that day, we called it the pool hall on Main Street, close to the Singer sewing machine place where he worked. And I could pass by there and see Papa, and I was so ashamed to see him in that place, you know. But I didn't know it then, but Nellie knew it. She would tell me about it later. And she said, I saw Mama sewing on that machine, wrapping her feet up to keep them warm. And I don't remember anything like that, but Daddy said she did. So Papa was, I guess, the only one in his family. Maybe they didn't take advantage of education. All their daddy was Grandpa Crunch. Mama said he said, if you don't read the Charlotte Observer every day, you're not educated. He was an educated man and wanted his children, but Papa didn't seem to take to it. He loved politics.
You're
He loved to talk to. After he got sick, after his first stroke, I found Earl Street up at the corner of Earl and Main, Congressman McSwain lived, J.J. McSwain. And he would come down and talk to Papa about politics. Papa loved politics. But I can't tell you too much about it.
What did he do for a living?
He was sold sewing machines and collected sewing. Used to go in a horse and buggy to collect for sewing machines up down Main Street. And he had worked for Haley's Furniture Store before that. I didn't remember that, but that's what tell me where he was.
A salesman?
Not Haley's, but
Was he a salesman?
I guess.
Huh.
I forget. Coming down Main Street, coming down North Street, just below the Barlow Center now. I was in the horse and buggy with Mom and Papa. And we had a washwoman who lived down there off of Park Avenue. And she had a new baby. She had a cute little baby. And she had a little pink ribbon up on her head. And I thought she was the cutest thing. And I remember coming down the ride with Mom and Papa, and I said, I want a baby just like Lucinda's. And Mom and Papa laughed, I didn't know what they was laughing about. How in the world I was going to have a baby like Lucinda's without our black lady who did our washing.
Oh, man.
Guess you didn't have a whole lot of interracial marriages back then, did you?
No, you never heard of it as far as I know. But I'm sure it did. Just wasn't open as it is now.
Well, if you married someone of the other race, that'd be obvious. I don't know. Well, Mother, we'll get this, and we'll edit out parts of it and save it. No telling who will be looking at this thing somewhere years and years from now.
I
What are
bet
you
they'll
gonna-
notice this tooth the first time.
Well, they
God, look at that spider right there. Film it. Seriously, right there behind you.
Where?
Can you not see the giant spider? It's huge.
Which baby spider?
Oh. Look at that thing. Holy cow.
Go over there and poke it, darling.
Yeah, uh-huh. I don't think so.
Where is it? There it is. You wanna go for a run, Natty? She's hard to keep up with. She's a wild, wild dog. It's a showdown. Who's gonna win? The cow does not look too bothered. She's trying to decide whether to run or to attack.
Call for reinforcements.
Did you get him, Nat? Ooh, here we go, here we go. I don't think they are.
Has she had water this morning?
Yeah. Not since she did battle with the cows, though. Here is our victor, Natty Gann. This is the front porch of the Rogers residence. Notice the lovely swing and the lovely lady in the chair. And then notice the lounge chair, here for comfort, protected by plastic from the elements. And this lovely handmade bench over to the left. Real craftsmanship here in this fine bench. Note the attention to detail. And then over here, we have the garden site, the new well house with the old discarded well house to the back. If you look carefully, you will notice that this used to be an outhouse here at the Rogers residence, no longer used for other than habitat for rats and mice. Off in the distance, there's the log home, built by Mr. Rogers and with some help from his sons. Isn't that lovely? And then the panoramic view of the field that does not belong to the Rogers, however, provides them many hours of entertainment. The driveway, the shed, the tree, and then back again to this pleasant scene on the front porch of the Rogers residence. Look at those two. Ah, what a picture of contentment.
Granger.
What is it, Pat?
Potato salad.
It's,
Is it pasta?
That's potato
this
salad.
guy does
And this is
ramen
another type of
noodles
salad
in
that
it
Pat
with
loves.
the,
Oh, that's right here.
red cabbage.
It's different, isn't it? It looks different.
Ben, what you want to drink? Are you waiting for the coffee or you want more lemonade?
I'd like to have some lemonade.
You can get up here and I'll.
I'll take some coffee.
Sit
It's
too
okay.
long, I'm just kinda.
You could take a nap now, couldn't you?
Just sitting so long. Just live around these old bones and joints, don't.
I dread that when I get older.
I dread it for you, hon.
What is it you dread when you get home?
Crickety joints and bones and things hurt.
That just doesn't happen to you, does it? Nina?
If you get up.
It just happens to old folks.
Oh.
Say, I don't know yet.
Well, you'd be better if you scoot up next to the table.
Uh,
Scoot up next to this table.
yeah, I could be better at the table.
Well, why don't we bring you up here?
Okay.
We'll put the food back to the left a little bit.
Yes.
Kind of hard for you to do.
Well-
You need this, you need to.
Yeah, it is.
Barbecue sandwich.
Don?
Barbecue bone.
You gonna eat?
Really.
Pros don't have time to busy at work too.
That's his famous beans.
Huh?
I'm spilled.
Just tea, no lemonade?
Yeah. I
It's
like the
what's
famous
What's
bean.
this little one here, who's his name?
Well, anybody wants to put lemon in it rather than lemonade. That's you.
School, we had to memorize a lot, and as I told you before, and I guess all of you heard, Nellie and I used to, when Mama bought the literature for children, it was, I don't know how many books, but one book was completely poetry, and something happened to that book. I always figured Nellie got it, she always got everything. I never did know what happened to that, I'd like to have had that. But Mama would go in the kitchen and start supper, and she'd fix a fireplace in our living room on Earl Street. And Dad and I would sit down by that little fire and get that book, and she would read one and I'd read one. We'd take time about reading our poetry. And I memorized them many of them, but I don't remember many of them now, but I keep start them sometimes, but I can't finish them. But anyway, Don's always wanted me to read it, so I'm going to give this performance right now for the Raggedy Man. Oh, the Raggedy Man, he works for Pa, and he's the goodest man that ever you saw. He comes to our house every day and waters the horses and feeds them hay. And he opens the shed, and we all just laughs when he drives out that little old wobbly calf. And then, if our hired girl says he can, he milks a cow for Elizabeth man. Ain't he an awful good raggedy man? Raggedy, raggedy, raggedy man. Why, the raggedy man, he is so good. He splits the kindling and chops the wood, and then he spades in our garden too, and does most things that boys can't do. He clumb clear up in our big tree and shook an apple down for me, and another two for Elizabeth Ann, and another two for the raggedy man. Ain't he an awful kind raggedy man? Raggedy, raggedy, raggedy man. And the raggedy man, he knows most rhymes and tells them if I be good sometimes. Knows about jaunts and griffins and elves, and the squiddly squeeze that swallows themselves, and right by the pump in our pasture lot, he showed me the hole that the wumps has got, and lives way deep down in the ground, and can turn me into Elizabeth Ann. Am I a far or the raggedy man? Ain't he a funny old raggedy man? Raggedy, raggedy, raggedy man. The raggedy man one time when he was making a little boy an hour for me, says, when you speak like your pa is, and you go to keep a fine store like his, and be a rich merchant and wear fine clothes, and then he laughed, and what are you going to be, goodness knows. And then he laughed at Elizabeth Ann, and I said, me? Going to be a raggedy man. Now, it's going to be a nice raggedy man. Raggedy, raggedy, raggedy man.
All right. That's good, very good.
Yeah, I love poetry.
when I hear that, I visualize you in Greenville there on
Earl Street.
Earl Street and Raggedy Man there in Greenville somewhere back in the.
That's where that's the house where we used to sit, that's the house, we went in, that house on Earl Street.
Who?
Don and I, we walked by
Yes.
some time and the lady came out, Don went to the door and told us
Oh,
that thing,
really?
she asked us to come in.
Huh.
And you know, I thought those were the biggest rooms when we were out. And we went in that living room, I said, Lord, I thought we used to have the biggest room. And the dining room was so small, and the kitchen. But it was to me, I thought we had moved
You were
from
little.
Grandpa's
You
house.
were just little.
That's-
Everything was big.
That's the famous. Well, I actually saw the famous stairway that Mother jumped down the step one time, from the top down to the bottom.
I never knew how to do it.
How in
Who
the,
was it scared you?
Larry.
Larry?
And it's one time my mother blessed him out. My mother got angry with him that night. We all played rook. That's what we did a lot at night. We played rook. So Mama sent us up to bed at a certain time. Nellie and we got upstairs. And all the girls slept in one room and our brother slept in the other room. And Sister Larry had the big room across all the front of the house. And Mama and Papa slept downstairs. Nellie and I went up to that room and you see you had those little lights that came down on just the one little single light. We had to go there and pull the string.
Right.
And went over there and pulled the string and there was something in our bed. And looked exactly like somebody under the cover. And Nellie and I
Got
screamed.
in there and thank God it's.
Nellie was always a
Larry,
coward. She What?
I said, y'all came in and thought somebody's in the bed, and y'all said, thank God it's a man, little Larry shouted.
We screamed. Nellie was always a coward. And I had to be, I was the youngest, but I had to look after things. She was just always a mama girl.
Yeah.
You know, she couldn't do anything without mama.
Oh, yeah.
And we jumped down those steps. Nellie started ahead of me. Of course, she got out first. But I beat her downstairs. Got to those stairs, and I started and just touched one time between there and I never had it on me. So he
repeated that.
saw those stairs, and I don't know how.
Wow.
If Nellie hadn't been in the way, she wouldn't have touched that one.
Nelly
Oh, there was a.
slowed you down, didn't she?
That, I tell you, that's one thing, but that's been a mystery all my life. I don't know how to do that. So Don said, well, I've seen these famous stairs. But it was Larry had gone up there and made a shape of it. Looked just like he had gone to all kinds of things and made it so. And he just got,
Call it.
Mama, he was very, Mama
Let
got
that
angry.
tickle out.
I can't imagine Mama getting upset over that, you know, because I guess I would have thought it was funny, but Mama didn't. We didn't then.
I don't recall ever seeing her upset. I don't recall ever seeing her angry.
The grandmother.
I never had it. Not physically, and she didn't show it.
I thought she got angry in her latter days with Larry.
Yeah.
One time I heard her, she said this, and that told me a lot.
She disgusted, I'm sure.
You see, Mama didn't tell, but she'd had a hard time
Yeah.
in many ways. And that time she says, no drunk's gonna run me out of my house. She was out of our house,
Yeah.
and something had happened I never did know what
Yeah.
between them. She
Well,
gone up, she got away for a few days.
she was a good one. She was a good one.
She sure was. I thought about lately what she used to say to little Bert. Bert was my sister's child. When she and my sister and her husband divorced, she brought her children back home, and Julie went off to training as a nurse in St. Augustine, Florida. And Mama had the two. The baby was just 9 months old when Bert came, and Mary Jane died when she was 6. But Bert, Mama loved just like he was hers, you know. I don't know whether you didn't know him, Judy, either, I guess.
Yeah,
You
Bert.
knew Bert.
She didn't.
Yeah.
And so Mama would always say to Bert, if he said, did something, I never heard her raise her voice to him, but she says, this quoting the Bible. She says, say, Bert, she says, get behind me, Satan. Get you behind me, Satan. She scripted that, I don't know how many times.
They didn't know he was doing wrong, and that's what he should say.
Get you behind me, Satan.
Yeah.
How old were you when she passed away?
Well, let's see, it was 37.
Mama died in '63. Last
Scott
week
was-
in May.
Scott was just a few days old when Mama died, so
May the
37.
30th, wasn't it?
May 30th.
How old would that make me be?
1963 was
37
years ago.
I was
so
37.
No, you was
11, you were
50,
52.
37 from-
51,
I couldn't remember.
almost 52.
Yeah, I was pallbearer.
Were you?
Yeah, because you were probably 16, 17,
63, yeah. I was 19,
19,
or 8, probably 18.
18.
Was it Berryman's funeral home that had her?
On Merriman Avenue.
That was in Ripley's Believe It or Not thing. Berryman's funeral home.
Barry.
Berryman, okay.
Berryman's funeral.
Why was it in the?
It was in
Barry, man.
funeral home. Berryman. Funeral.
That's a big
Berryman,
one.
you said it, but
Yeah.
it's B-E-R.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Sure it was.
No, it's Berry, wasn't it?
B-E-R-R-Y-M-A-N.
B-E-R-R-Y.
But the sound, you know, Park in. I said, well, you had a great time. That's a good place. She said it's a good place to be from. I said, well, were you originally from there? She said, yes. I said, my grandmother and a lot of her family lived there. And she said, I said, where did you live up there? She said, Hillside Street. I said, you're a kid. She said, no, I lived on Hillside. Well, it's on the same side of the street, I think, that grandmother lived on. You know, if you went down the steps and went down the street, on the corner was, the second corner, I guess it was where the store was. You know, had that little entrance, the catty corner to everything, you remember? And below that, in the flats down there, is where she was raised. Down there. I thought, well, I have been all around. I have never seen many people that knew any of my relatives up there, much less lived on the same street. She knew Bobby and all of them, and Billy and them.
That's true.
And I was there, I guess it was in the spring after he died that year. And you could see that view across there. And I remember his saying that, you know, he's always a little
I
joking.
remember what you said too.
And and I could hear the Bob White. I could hear the quail. And, uh-oh, what is that? And I thought, what a perfect place for him. Because he loved that area. He loved Parish Mountain. The quail. He loved hunting quail.
Yeah, I remember you saying.
Remember that?
It's a lot more crowded around him over there now.
Yeah, you see, they've got so many now back over there. They're spread out.
Oh, yeah, they've got that filled with people.
I guess, you know,
But the reason I did is because I have his phone number along with Larry King's,
Whose phone number?
Bert, and Larry Poole's. In the drawer, I was thumbing through the drawer. And I came across them on the same sheet of paper. And I sat down there and wondered how Bert was and Judy.
I do too.
See, I called up there. Thank you. I called up there.
And Larry died.
Larry died and talked to Judy. First time I talked to her, I bet you spent, what, 25 years? Maybe more. But anyway, I got both those phone numbers down on the same sheet of paper in case, you know, we'd ever need to call. I'm like you, I thought about him and Judy the other day.
Thought it was just instrumental after.
We're talking about the same recording at all.
No, I was just kidding you on that one. But you're wrong on those other two.
It's not in there.
Well,
Let's see it, David, a minute, please.
Environs, you say it.
Not in there.
It's in there, it's environment, environs.
Well, I'm gonna look,
First of all,
I
we
know
got-
that, I know that's the definition of the word because I looked it up.
But you
But-
don't know what the words in thou and
I can't remember now.
Part you got to understand is using words maybe a little off from what you normally would hear to go with the
No, this is not in the new.
poetic
It's not in the
justice.
black dialect.
take in that.
Maybe so.
So, but environed, I know what environment is, and environed by a little Negro pew means it was,
Well,
they were surrounded by the little
I
pew.
don't know if
that
I'm
they
gonna
sat
have
in.
much confidence in what else you tell me now after you've been told me two things is wrong.
Everybody would sit at a bunch of fake beans and
Get up out of there a minute, Ben.
maybe being all right.
Here, Dan.
have the only cripple here running around. That's all right, I can sit
No,
there.
no, no, I'm fine.
I'm just
I need to get up for a few minutes.
Can you see me in there right?
Yep.
Okay.
That's good.
So it's on then.
It's on.
So it's listed with, they're listening to it.
I'm gonna do it the way I learned it.
How was that?
Just do.
Okay, y'all be quiet.
Judy, behave.
As I was walking in Savannah past a church decayed and dim, through the window I heard a plaintive funeral hymn. My sympathy awakened and my wonder quickly grew, and I found myself at the end aisle in a little Negro pew. Up front, a couple sat in sorrow and nearly wild. On the altar was a coffin, and in the coffin was a child. And then there arose a sad old Negro preacher from a little wooden desk, with a manner grandly awkward and a countenance of protest. And he said, "Now, my dear beloved brethren, hush your crying. You see that pretty bit of clay? The little boy that lived there, he done gone and run away. Now he appreciates your kindness and he's grateful for your love. But he gone to be with his sure enough father in that large house up above. Now the Lord didn't give you that baby, not by 100,000 miles. He just think you need some sunshine, so he lent it for a while. He let you love and keep it till your heart be a-grown. And these tears you're shedding now is just an interest on it alone. Now don't go around criticizing the one that knows the best. He's give us many comforts. He's got a right to take away. May the Lord be praised and glory, now and forever. Let us pray. I left out one whole sentence there.
Yeah, that was over about the middle part. It didn't matter really.
Let Ben do his version.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Ben, do your
Come
version.
on.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead and do yours.
You don't.
We want to have the incorrect version in there too.
Okay. I think you have it.
Ben, can you hold that?
Once as I was walking through Savannah, Georgia, I passed a church, decayed and dim. When slowly through the window there came a plaintive funeral hymn. Up front a young couple sat in sorrow, nearly wild. On the altar was a coffin. In the coffin was a child. There rose a sad old Negro preacher at a little wooden desk. His manner was grandly awkward, his countenance grotesque. And he said, "Now don't be a weeping for this pretty bit of clay. But the little boy what lived there, why he done gone and run away. You appreciate your kindness. You're grateful for your love. But he going to be with his show enough Father in that large house up above. Now he give you many pleasures, and you have the right to take away. Now may the Lord be praised and glory, now and forever. Let us pray. Amen. That's
You left out.
I left a little portion there myself, but
Yeah.
I hadn't done that in a long time.
You know, I don't even remember hearing read before, and surely I did.
Yeah, he was a
Done.
famous country singer back in 40s
I don't think I've ever heard that.
Back
You
in,
haven't?
back in,
Camera's on.
I might remember part of it.
Oh, me, oh, me.
Me and my wife, my brother Joe, set off to Fort San Pedro. We hadn't much gas and power to load. That old Ford would really go. Somewhere along, about the middle of the night, we was ripping along like people might. When the murk behind being, blinked his lights, he honked his horn and he blew out of sight. Well, he had twin pots and a Columbia clutch and speed no other car could touch. To you folks that don't dig the jive, that's 2 carburetors and an overdrive.
now does it come up?
Let's see, out on the my brother paled and he said he was sick. And looked at me like a nervous wreck. Why should I worry? What had me and that Mercury was neck to neck. Now out on the desert we did the glide, flying low and flying wide. Me and that Mercury taking a ride, staying exactly side by side. The cops were running round and around. They wouldn't chase, they'd run and hide.
Me and that Mercury State.
Side by side. I looked in the mirror, saw something come across a plane by the ways of humming. It come along at a terrible pace. I know right then it was the end of the race. When it pulled by, I turned the other way, but the guy in the Mercury had nothing to say. For passing us up as we went our way was a kid. I hopped up, shared them all later.
That's cute.
Do you remember it now, Ben?
He was.
I remember it.
He remembered it from the beginning.
Was it Arthur Smith or was his brother? Who was it?
Arthur Smith and the Cracker Jacks, who was his brother?
Ralph.
Was it Ralph? I think it was Arthur Smith. I think it was Arthur Smith.
What was that you was talking about a while ago, Granddaddy?
Somebody else come over here.
They said, what was the story about Granddaddy, how they named the automobiles the Chevrolet? You remember that?
How they named them?
Yeah. How they named the Chevrolet? I don't remember how
Talking about eggs.
I don't remember the story, but I remember the punchline was Chevrolet, but I can't remember how the story went.
I don't remember that, but I remember
Chevrolet.
he told, did you hear about
Football.
Stand up, sit over there in this
I know.
chair, please.
I do.
You got your exercise.
And I can still listen.
if you, it's strange what you remember. And I remember this from a kid. Age probably 12 to 14. And why I remember it, I don't know, but it stuck with me all my life. My granddaddy told it. He told a joke, and he said, he always, when he told a joke, he made you think it was real. He used the names of local people, in his jokes. So he said, the first automobile in this country was owned by a fellow by the name of Gant. And said he was coming up the road one day, his old T model Ford, and said, old man Abercrombie worked for the state, and he was out there on that old dirt road with a pair of mules, and he was clipping the right-of-way with a mowing machine. And that was his job for the state, to keep everything, grass down, weeds down around the right-of-way and the highway. All of a sudden, old man Gant comes flying up through there in that old T-model Ford. Dust flying and a racket terrible. And he said, by the time he got up next to those mules, they were raring up in the air, and old man Abercrombie was having a fit trying to get them settled down. He was sawing on those reins. Finally, the old man Gant shut the engine off on that T-model Ford. And eventually, Mr. Abercrombie got the mule settled, and he turned around to old man Gant and said, "What is that thing?" And he said, "It's an automobile." He said, "What's that thing you're riding there?" He said, "All them old grass, but it ain't worth a damn." I remember that all these years.
It's strange how you can remember some of the things that just, I know what you mean.
Joke that I heard yesterday, I probably can't
Yeah,
remember.
I know what you mean.
But the granddaddy and he laughed and carried on. We all did. And I think it's long about that time. See, when I was young, Don and I both, particularly, we'd spend the nights over there a lot of times, on weekends or in the summer, whatever, various times. Sometimes Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever. But on this one occasion, it was I was sleeping in the bed with Granddaddy because Grandma was at work at the mill over in Eastern. She worked third shift, I think, at this time, pretty sure. So it was cold in that place. It was, in the wintertime, you burn up in the summer. Felix was sleeping in the next room to us. The head of his bed was up the head of the same wall that the head of our bed was. You know, the wall was head of Felix and that. Well, Granddaddy's in there telling me jokes, and we're laughing all over the place, making all kinds of noise, and all of a sudden I heard it on the wall. There's Felix. He said, "Y'all hush in there. I'm trying to sleep." And so nobody answered. Granddaddy still paid no attention. Said, "This is my house."
Now, who was it?
They had you know, the manufacturing people. They had
That's
a.
where Scott and Jan, they go right, didn't Scott and Jan spend some time down there?
I think they did one time.
A few months ago.
Maybe more than once.
He told me about it.
I told Brenda the other day about Curtis Walker and some of those Furman boys were down there, had a sorority, a fraternity party. Had
You
a
mean the
house.
same trip when we were down there?
But I remember Don walked in there, he and Curtis, and I guess they, you know, the girls all around. Don and Curtis acting like a real fight fixing to break out. Pushing like big bad, like it's total strangers. So I remember it looked like a fight was fixing to break out.
I'd forgotten about that.
How did the girls react to that?
It was just everybody there thought it was, big fights fixing to break out. Got
Everybody
Carolina guy, the Furman guy, whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But that was,
Good trip, wasn't
I enjoyed, that was a big trip for me.
it? Me too.
Yeah.
Well, we stayed down there several days after our money ran out.
That was the first, shoot.
How did you eat?
Bummed around, you could walk into anybody's house, you know. You didn't knock on the door, just walk in, go back to the kitchen, make yourself a sandwich.
Somebody chipped you. if you did
No,
that.
it was just all open down there.
Slept on the beach one night.
Yeah, slept on the beach.
They didn't use real. They just shot caps at them. They didn't use real bullets.
Well, isn't that when you got so sunburned?
Oh, man. Come out and cool.
Good grief, boy. I tell you.
I remember Mother seeing me when I walked in the door. I can remember that.
I remember what she said when I walked in.
Went from right way.
She didn't know who I was.
I didn't
Are you
recognize
serious?
I
She
didn't know who he
didn't know
was.
it.
What did I say?
That his own mother didn't recognize him.
That's right.
That's terrible.
Dad and I drove up. We came in. I didn't, you,
I had a motorcycle. I rode Kim on the motorcycle, and
How weird.
the weather had leathered my face, and also that she didn't.
Actually, she recognized you, she just wouldn't claim you.
Might be too.
You had a beard too.
yeah.
It has stubble a beard,
I don't
probably.
know, I didn't know.
And what did I say?
You made it known that you didn't know who I was.
I know, I did know who
I didn't know who he was.
No, I
I was
didn't.
in the yard when he drove up.
Oh,
I can't remember how long it took me to realize what he did more,
I think he asked you, has been wrong? He asked for himself or something.
He did.
And I said, I think he's out with us. Really, two of you?
yeah.
Two of you? Who was on there with you?
I'd already let him off. That was
Marion.
Hendrickman, Marion Hendrickman.
Marion Instrument.
He had ridden all the way on the,
Oh, he was galled.
Oh,
he didn't have a seat, did he? He didn't have
We had the same seat.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. There's a big seat. He
36
sat right
hundred
behind me, you know, and his legs spread out on the things that you had to put your feet on.
All the way from the state of Washington.
Oh, we got out to, people didn't do that in that day. People didn't ride motorcycles across the country. That was rare.
Do they do it today?
And so I had him on the back. We went up the Rocky Mountains over there at Monarch Pass. That's where we crossed. This was September. It was hot as blazes out on the bottom. We got up to the top. We were freezing to death. In fact, it snowed. This didn't snow. And we had a line of cars behind us that wouldn't quit. Two of us on this thing going up 12,000 feet or better. And cars were all behind us, 2-lane road. Got to the top, and there was a place where you could get hot chocolate, coffee, sandwiches and stuff. Well, everybody stopped. And we went inside, and this guy walked up to us, and he said, "Did y'all drive that thing from Washington State?" I said, "Yeah." This is Colorado. Where are you going? To Greenville, South Carolina? He said, "Damn, boys, y'all will never make it." Me and Mary got to wondering that's
We
that.
come over with the donors the first time.
Yeah.
Ben, how could, when you got off that motorcycle, show us how you walked when you got off that motorcycle.
How you walked?
Yes.
I say flying, we were making good time. Saddlebag fell off. Everything we had was in 2 saddlebags. It fell off, it came unscrewed, and it hit the ground, and it flew over. We even had motor oil, a can or 2 of motor oil in that particular one. Man, it went high as the sky. It looked like it's going into orbit. Marion's Brownie camera, box camera, was in there. I looked like it like it was going to go into orbit. Sure enough, that thing bounced and it hit and it bounced and it hit. I just made sure it was in a million pieces. Well, we went back. We gathered up shorts, T-shirts, camera, motor oil, which had bent but had not burst, and we just threw the saddlebag out in the desert. You know, we didn't have anything to put it back together with. Put everything we could in that other bag, under the seat, and everywhere we could. Marion said, you know how he talks slow. He said, "You know, Ben, I don't believe this camera's that good." I said, "Well, take some pictures." See, he did. He took pictures, and they turned out as good as any of them. It did not break. And I told him, you should call the Brownie people and invite them and tell them.
Get him, don't tell him what it is.
That's
Put
right.
him on a commercial.
He did. And so he
You
really,
have to tell that to him, don't you?
and I said, while we're here, can we teach you how to drive this? I'm tired of driving. And I know you're tired back there. You know how long it took me to teach him how to crank it?
How long, man?
Long. Finally, I got it cranked for him, and I said, "Okay, now put it, put this thing in just a little bit. Let out the clutch, and then let your foot up." Well, as always, he fell over every time. He couldn't balance. So finally, I gave up, and I drove it all the way home. Well, he sat on the back all the way. But he kept saying, "Next great dog I see, I'm going to take it home." Talking about the Greyhound. Well, I heard that, and I heard it, but I got tired of it. We got to Grand Junction, Colorado. And I said, "Today is the day. We're going to find you a Greyhound." And we went to the Greyhound bus station in Grand Junction, Colorado. We went in there and asked the price of a ticket to Greenville, South Carolina. The price was so exorbitant for us that he didn't have a cry riding the bus back home. Reluctantly, he left out the next morning with me on that thing and him moving like this. Oh, yeah, he was golden all in here. He was eating up at golf.
Nowhere
And
near
when
home.
we finally got home, we came in from, like Westminster, that way. And when we came into where, near Central, which is where he lived, we crossed the railroad track on that little old bridge. You could look down there, as you cross that bridge, the track was running this way, and you could see the entrance to his driveway, which is way on down there, but you could see it. He could rear it up. He stood up on the steps of that thing. He said, whoop! He gave her the biggest rebel cry you ever heard. One more happy boy.
I bet so.
Wouldn't it have been